The Earth. Thriving with different cultures, customs, languages, and ideologies is a breathtaking macrocosm of the diversity of creation. Looking around this beautiful planet, we see countless examples of the wondrous creation of God, how we all, living on this speck in the universe, are both individual and unique. Be that in the religion we practice, our views on economics, or even our political leanings. But if we flick through the annals of history, the pages of our broadsheets, or the timelines of our social media, we are faced with the cold, harsh reality of conflict, chaos, and torment. Alongside the progression of time and the evolution of mankind, we see that for a plethora of reasons and motivations, individuals and nations have pursued their own betterment and benefit, often to the detriment and loss of others. Looking back over time, we see pages and pages documenting the perpetual state of conflict that has darkened the doorstep of our humanity, and yet, throughout this time, God has sent His chosen ones to show the path to peace. From the Crusades to the French Revolution, the World Wars, or the Chinese Civil War, mankind has found itself engaged in all forms of political turmoil throughout the ages. And as mankind continued to advance and progress and develop into what we see now as a global village, so too did the extent of our warfare and weaponry, our tactics and military. In fact, when we look upon the world today, we see the face of it covered in the scars of battles old and battles new, and the frequency and ferocity of modern warfare having reached unprecedented levels. But this was all destined to happen, as had been prophesied by the Holy Quran itself, which says, "Corruption has appeared on land and sea because of what men's hands have wrought." For this time of disorder being prevalent in the land and the sea was to be the time of the coming of another sent by God, one sent for the rejuvenation of the faith, for the guidance of the people. It had been prophesied by none other than the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, himself, that a time would come when the world would descend into a state of chaos and disarray, and that at that time a man would be sent by God who would re-establish the lost connection with the Creator and bring about a spiritual revolution in the world. This grand prophecy was fulfilled with the coming of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, India, the promised Messiah and Imam Mahdi, and the establishment of the worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim community. From the very start of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, one of the biggest and politically impactful situations had culminated in Muslim-Hindu tensions in the subcontinent. The skirmishes and constant battling between these two estranged brother communities had been raging on for many years, and it was in this climate that the promised Messiah, who had been foretold by the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, to be the just arbiter, entered the arena. In his book, Paigam-e-Sulh, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad spoke out against the tensions between the two communities and urged for the establishment of long-lasting peace and truce. Notwithstanding the hundreds of differences between us, Muslims and Hindus alike share one thing in common, i.e., we all believe in God, the Creator and Master of the universe. Also, we belong to the same denomination of God's species and are referred to as humans. Furthermore, as inhabitants of the same country, we are mutual neighbours. This requires that we become friends to each other, with purity of heart and sincerity of intentions. We should dispose kindly to each other and be mutually helpful. In the difficulties pertaining to religious and worldly matters, we should exercise such sympathy towards each other as if we have become limbs of the same body. The promised Messiah did not simply and unjustly take the side of the Muslims, nor did he side only with the Hindus against members of his own religion. Rather, taking the duty of justice and fairness into account, he admonished both sides for the sake of ridding the area of the continuous bloodshed and turmoil that we see to this day. It was this example of the promised Messiah that laid a precedent for the members of the Ahmadiyya community, a precedent embodied in the very words of the Holy Quran. O ye who believe, be strict in observing justice, and be witnesses for Allah. Hazrat Muslim Maud also addressed this issue in great depth, along with continued efforts in the meeting with and the advising of the parties involved in this age-old conflict. He also made significant literary and oratory contributions towards a treaty of peace and an end to violence. Hazrat Muslim Maud maintained and established his main discourses on the principles of mutual respect and the need for solid, long-lasting foundations, as opposed to the prospect of momentary or immediate gain. He also continually advised both parties to come towards God and the inculcation of the essential attributes of morality. A never-ending wave of hope has been born within my heart. Hence, although the current conditions are in an incredibly grim state, I, with a heart full of hope, have firm faith that if not today, then tomorrow, peace will be established in the nation, and if not now, then in a time to come, people will soon be freed of mischief, disorder, discord, and disunity, and will come to the path of peace and tranquility. Through the guidance of Allah the Almighty, Huzur repeatedly impressed the idea that in order for a truce to be truly forged and for coexistence to be successful, both parties must better themselves and strengthen themselves in their own right, and that in particular for the Muslims to turn once again to God and endeavour to improve themselves spiritually. Hazrat Muslim Maud also played a significant role in advising and guiding during the times of the partition of India-Pakistan, being the very driving force behind the founder of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah's return to politics. A move that would later see the formation of Pakistan itself. In fact, it is a well-documented fact that Hazrat Muslim Maud played an integral role throughout this politically tumultuous time, by speaking with dignitaries and representatives and orchestrating moves to ensure the rights and liberties of all parties. These efforts, innumerable in quantity and unmeasurable in impact, also included personal involvement with the All India Muslim League, the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms of 1917, and the Nehru Report, to which Huzur wrote a book published in November 1928 entitled Muslim Rights and the Nehru Report. Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu, Khalifatul Masih II, analyzing the then state of the world during this time, stated, "Nowadays Islam is passing through dark days. India, Palestine, Egypt, and Indonesia, in all these places the entity of Islam is in grave danger. Whatever is happening in India is there for all to see. The Russian government is creating its influence in Iran. Therefore, the Iranian government is having to deal with a very dangerous situation. The Dutch government is using every weapon at its disposal to enslave the people of Indonesia. In Malaysia, the Chinese are being suppressed. From India to Iran, then from Palestine, Egypt to Indonesia, in all these countries, the Muslims are surrounded by danger from all sides. Therefore, every Ahmadi ought to pray particularly hard during these times." The second Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community was similarly instrumental in the issue of Kashmir, again providing guidance and advice for all parties. He decided to assist in various ways, including in early 1931 by lobbying the government of Kashmir towards policy reform in favour of all parties. Huzur also invited leading Muslims with a deep interest in the Kashmir issue for consultation on 25th July 1931. They discussed the dire state of the Muslim minority under the Maharaja. Alongside this, Khalifatul Masih II also felt the need for practical measures to embolden and support the people of Kashmir and to compel the Hindu Maharaja and his advisors to recognize the rights of the Kashmiri people. It was therefore decided that an All India Kashmir Committee should be formed for this very purpose, a committee in which the Ahmadiyya Muslim community played a vital role. Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal, who was himself an eminent Kashmiri, proposed that Huzur should be elected president of the committee. Hence, on the 25th of July 1931, Hazrat Muslim Maud was elected and many leading Muslims, including Sir Muhammad Iqbal, joined officially as its members. Over his next 2-year tenure, Huzur led the committee to win many battles and achieved almost revolutionary results through his leadership. The committee successfully addressed many issues, such as providing relief for the distressed, urging Kashmiri officials to perform their duties with helpfulness, sympathy, and humanity, providing legal aid for the wrongfully prosecuted, and many others. Eventually, the Maharaja was compelled to grant civil rights to the Kashmir Muslims, of which they had been deprived of previously. Distinguished Muslim leaders from Kashmir, like Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, would also frequently visit Qadian in order to seek political advice. The example of Hazrat Muslim Maud is of course an incredibly powerful one, for during his Khilafat the Jamaat grew exponentially, and it was his immense wisdom and foresight that led to leaders of the political world turning to the Jamaat for assistance and guidance. Arguably, when delving into the legacy of Hazrat Mirza Nasir Ahmed, the third Khalifa of the Jamaat, among his many achievements and contributions towards peace, he is noted across the world as the author of the slogan, "Love for all, hatred for none," a short one-liner epitomizing the essence of Islam and the teaching of peace that the community perpetuates across the world. Interestingly, however, this motto did not end at the lips and hearts of the Ahmadiyya Muslims worldwide. Rather, people from all walks of life, including politicians and religious leaders and members of the public, have found inspiration in this simple motto.
The best 6 words that can be said are love for all and hatred for none.
Quoting and using it as a banner of social cohesion and true political purpose.
We need to strive ever harder, whether in politics or in religion, to make the argument for peace, to make the argument for love for all, hatred for none.
Now existing as a symbol and a rallying cry for political justice and international peace, irrespective of colour, creed, nationality, or political leaning.
That's why those 6 words, love for all, hatred for none, are so important. And every time I meet members of the Ahmadiyya community, I just see those 6 words ingrained in everything they do, everything they say, and I'm so grateful and inspired by everything that you do as a community.
The spirit of providing guidance to the world was also inculcated in the spirit of Khalifatul Masih IV, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmed. During his Khilafat of 21 years, he offered guidance on a plethora of issues, including racism in the US, the Bosnian conflict, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and most notably, one of his greatest contributions was with regards to the Gulf War, otherwise referred to as the Persian Gulf War. This was an international conflict triggered by Iraq's invasion of Kuwait on August 2, 1990. Iraq's leader, Saddam Hussein, ordered the invasion and occupation of Kuwait with the apparent aim of acquiring that nation's large oil reserves, cancelling a large debt Iraq owed Kuwait, and expanding Iraqi power in the region. On August 3rd, the United Nations Security Council called for Iraq to withdraw from Kuwait, and on August 6th, the Council imposed a worldwide ban on trade with Iraq. When the crisis started in August 1990, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmed guided the world through a series of Friday sermons that were later published into a book, The Gulf Crisis and the New World Order. He highlighted the dishonesty and breach of faith of the attack of Iraq on Kuwait. He highlighted the need for Muslim countries to adhere to the trait of righteousness and to similarly impress the need of this upon their citizens at times such as this. A teaching which, to this day, is as pertinent as it was at the time of delivery. Taking example from the Holy Quran, he explained the possibility of some Muslim powers being drawn into such a confrontation with other Muslim powers, culminating in all-out war, and that in such a situation, the joint responsibility of establishing peace falls on all Muslim nations as a whole. He also admonished the people of the time that if one Muslim nation insists on a defiant posture against the other and does not stop its aggression, then the solution is that the entire world of Islam should unite and subdue the aggressor. He emphasized again and again the need for Muslim states to follow the injunctions of the Holy Quran, and that if they were to do so, the bloody and protracted war between Iraq and Iran would come to a speedy end. Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmed was well known for his deep thinking, analogies and far-reaching wisdom. He explained that at that fragile time, an effort towards reconciliation, righteousness and justice must always be kept in view, if peace was to be attained. On September 11, 2001, the world witnessed an event that no doubt morphed both the public perspective on global issues, but also had an irreversible effect on the nature and essence of global politics. The commencement of the global war on terror, the consequent invasions and international conflicts led to a heavy polarization of the masses and indeed their political leaders across the world. Just a few short years later, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, the fifth Caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, was elected and took the responsibility of being God's representative on earth. The neutral efforts and impartial endeavours of Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad towards the establishment of peace and justice across the world are both well documented and well recognized in the modern day. From the very outset of his time as Khalifa, His Holiness reached out and offered his guidance to all willing to listen, be it through the writing of dozens of letters to political heads of state, the delivering of historic lectures at key locations of political prominence, the engaging in one-to-one sessions with world leaders, or the organizing of global initiatives to restore the respect of the Muslim name. His Holiness stands as a key and fearless figure, providing much-needed guidance in an era of political distress and unrest, as to how a course to peace may be charted. Unlike many other politicians and leaders, His Holiness remains impartial and balanced, worrying only about the prevalence of good and justice, rather than the keeping of appearances or wordplay. It is for this reason that when speaking to a nation, he speaks with the determination and sincerity that only a true man of God may have. Where on one side, he has admonished the Prime Minister of Israel to resolve disputes through dialogue rather than force. On the other, he advised the President of Iran to fulfill the requirements of justice with regards to international alliances. Be it the Queen of England, the Chancellor of Germany, the Pope of the Catholic Church, or the Premier of China, the advice of the Khalifa of Islam is loud and clear to anyone with an ear to listen to his wisdom and understanding. In an address at Capitol Hill entitled "The Path to Peace, Just Relations Between Nations," His Holiness said,
"The truth is that peace and justice are inseparable. You cannot have one without the other. Yet, in general, there is little doubt that restlessness and anxiety is increasing in the world, and so disorder is spreading. This clearly proves that somewhere along the line, the requirements of justice are not being fulfilled."
At his address in the military headquarters of Koblenz, Germany, His Holiness again emphasized on the importance of justice and the need for just lawmaking.
I would like to say that today we observe that the world has become a global village. Mankind has become very closely knit together. The people of all nations, religions, and cultures are found in all countries. And so this requires that the leaders of every nation should consider and respect the feelings and sentiments of all people. The leaders and their governments should strive to create laws that foster an environment and spirit of truth and justice, rather than making laws that are a means of causing distress and frustration to the people. Injustices and cruelties should be eliminated, and instead we should strive for true justice.
Under the instructions of this champion of peace, every year the Ahmadiyya Muslim community holds an international peace symposium, which brings together hundreds of dignitaries, religious and political representatives, all in the name of peace and justice. Where these symposiums give a platform for people from all walks of life to discuss and learn, it also provides them with an opportunity to partake from the guidance of His Holiness.
The rhetoric of certain powerful world leaders has become increasingly nationalistic and belligerent, as they have pledged to put the rights of their own citizens above all others. In many instances, it seems that the world has not learned from its past mistakes. It is widely accepted that the Iraq War of 2003 was unjust and based on false pretenses, whilst Libya has descended into chaos and become a hotbed of extremism since Western powers took action there some years ago. The policies that are based upon selfishness, greed, and a readiness to forfeit the rights of others are wrong and a means of sowing discord and division in the world. Furthermore, it is also high time that instead of prioritizing the advance of their political parties or governments, our leaders prioritize the future peace and prosperity of humanity.
Even in the modern day, where we see unprecedented examples of international conflict and the world on the brink of what some see as a Third World War, His Holiness stands firm in his stance on what the world needs. Never shying away from the truth, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community has shone as a beacon of guidance for the world since its inception. Through its unbiased and unconditional love for the creation of God, it has always championed the establishment of justice and equality for all. The Khalifa of God stands supported by the teachings of Allah the Almighty and admonishes the world that it is through obedience to these teachings and recognizing our Creator alone that the world can find true peace.